Hey everybody, I'm Craig. You may recognize me as Stuttering Craig from way back in the old internet days. Glad you guys have joined me today. Thank you so much for finding this channel. If you are new, do me a favor, hit the old subscribe button and pop on in. It'd be really great if you do. We are climbing towards 30,000 subscribers, man. How great is that? That is awesome. Thank you guys very much for your support. Also, thumbs up are greatly appreciated because there is a direct correlation between thumbs up and the growth of the videos on YouTube. Why? I don't know. The algorithm, it's crazy. Okay, look, so today I'm going to tell you guys about what I did prior to what I'm doing now, right? A lot of you guys ask me, well, what did you do prior to, most of you guys know me from Screw Attack, right, obviously. But I figured I'd give you a pretty much full rundown of my entire, I don't know, adult career, you know, outside of like sacking groceries and stuff. But I figured I'd kind of start from the beginning and work my way through because it's all over the place, man. I did a lot. I've done a lot. I've been a part of many things, and I didn't really realize how many different jobs I've had until I started writing them down for this. So I figured I'll just start from the start and kind of go from there. Like I said, I did sack groceries from back in the day. I think sacking groceries, well, I don't even think sacking groceries is a job anymore. Now you have to sack them yourself, which is crazy. Worked at a place, a little, well, not a little store, but a store called Tom Thumb. Started there. Then eventually I became a checker. And that I was checking groceries, and 4011, that's the code for bananas. I know that much. I remember that. That's the one that sticks with me. If anybody's ever been a checker, you know they got to put in the codes for the produce. So did that for a while. Did that through high school. Then in high school, I got a really cool job working at this place called GameWorks. And this was like my probably senior year of high school, senior into freshman year of college. Working at this place called GameWorks. It was I think they're still around. I know there's one in Vegas. I think there's one in Chicago, but there was one in Dallas here at Grapevine Mills Mall. And I worked there, and it was the coolest job ever. It was an arcade. It was this giant arcade, like 30,000 square feet of all the new games. Mortal Kombat would come out. They'd have like a dozen of them. It was awesome. It was like ultimately a dream job. And the job I got, at the time, the job I got there was actually handed to me. I wouldn't say handed to me, but somebody saw something in me. And that was the first time I actually had a microphone put in my hand. The first time I actually spoke on a microphone. And a little story behind there. The lady who hired me, her name was Susan. And she's like, I went in to be a waiter. And she's like, no, I think you would actually be better for this thing called a PJ. It's called a play jockey. And she's like, look, I want you to take this microphone and I want you to tell everybody in here about your favorite game. That's all I want you to do. And I remember I was there with Susan and one of the trainers there, and we're sitting there, and it took me literally an hour to go through in my head what I wanted to say. This was a 10-second, hey, I want to tell you about this game. It's so fun, blah, 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 blah. It took me an hour, and I was scared shitless, man. I was scared, so scared to get on a microphone because my voice was about to boom through this entire area, this big old venue, and tell everybody what's going on. And I mustered up the courage to say what I was going to say. I don't even remember the game I was going to talk about because as soon as I started, hey guys, and I turned off the microphone and I fumbled it and I screwed up so bad and I was so in my own head. And I remember going around the corner and seeing Susan and the trainer laughing their asses off at me, and they're like, "It's okay." And you know what? What I tell this to my kids all the time. What do we do when we fall down? You get back up. Susan handing me that microphone literally changed my life. Literally changed my life because it gave me the courage to get up and go out of my boundaries and believe in myself and be able to get in front of people and talk on a regular basis. And that was my job. So they hired me as this play jockey, and I spent the next 2 or 3 years essentially making fun at GameWorks. People would come in and I'd have to come up with all these video game competitions. I'd hold tournaments on Marvel vs. Capcom. I do racing tournaments at Indy 500, and it was super fun. And that was my job. My job was essentially to create fun, which the irony of that, like that helped build a lot of the stuff that I would do later on down the line. So while working at GameWorks, I got my whole list right here. I'm going to be looking down at it. While working at GameWorks, I mentioned I started at college. I actually took a summer off because I interned at Walt Disney World. That was a very, very cool summer. I actually met a long-term girlfriend there. I had a lot of great friends that I met there, and it was very, very cool. I remember it was only 3 months, and it was the last time they actually did just the summer internship. And Disney, the company, has changed a lot over the last 20 years since I did that. But I remember having so much respect. I love Disney. I love the parks. I very much do. But I remember going there and remembering I'm only going to be there for 3 weeks. But I remember them training me for 2 weeks. And they trained all their interns there for 2 weeks on little things. The Disney point. You notice at Disney, they never use one finger. They always use a whole hand or 2 fingers because this looks like you're scalding somebody, right? Teaching you how to count back money. The Disney way. Certain ways to do it that made it a part of the magic and things like that. So I really respected kind of how Disney trained its employees going in there. I've always have a soft spot for them. What I did when I was there, I pretty much just sold Mickey ears and T-shirts. So if you ever go to the Hollywood Studios and you go where the Muppet ride is, on the way out there's a store called Stage One. That's where I essentially spent my summer. So every time I go back to Disney World, I always like to stop in there and just the same music's playing. It's the exact same store. Everything is the same. Just different faces, that's the nature of the beast. So after Disney, I went back to work at GameWorks, and I was fortunate enough. Someone actually heard my voice over the PA one day, and there was this guy named Dan. And Dan worked for Coca-Cola, or at least I thought. He actually worked for a company that worked for Coca-Cola. It was like a third-party thing, right? So they were a promotional company that worked with Coca-Cola as their client. And one of the things that Coca-Cola did, or that they did, was they had this thing called the Coca-Cola Road Jam. And they were looking to hire people to go out and essentially do exactly what I did at GameWorks. And so Dan actually came in. He's like, look, I want you to come work for me. He actually told me this at GameWorks while I'm there. And I was like, man, I don't know. I'm pretty loyal. So I stuck around at GameWorks for like 3 or 4 more months. And then he came back in and he goes, look, hey, I really want you to work for me. Because he heard me talking over the microphone again because they were doing some announcements and stuff. So I was like, okay. He gave me a little raise, went out, and I actually brought TJ, Tom, along with me. So Tom and I essentially spent the next 2 or 3 years going around. It was a great summer job. Like, it was an awesome summer job. Occasionally we do some things in like the early spring and fall. We go to football games and stuff. But for the most part, it was like a really great summer job where we would go around the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex and we would put up, we'd drive around this van. It had a big old Coke thing on it. It had a basketball hoop on the back of it. And we go around, put some speakers on top, and play basketball with kids all day. I mean, like, how great is that? So we'd go there to go to a place for 2 hours, then we go to another place for 2 hours, and we're driving around, filling this thing up, and just being goofy for like 3. It was awesome. It was a great summer job, super fun. But that company actually led to more opportunities. The company that worked for Coke, it was a company called CPC out of Minnesota, Creative Promotional Concepts. I'm telling you guys everything. This is crazy. So I'm just going to keep on going. Whatever. If you guys enjoy this, thumbs up the video. This is all about me and my career history. So I worked for CPC, and they've been partners with Coca-Cola for a long time. And the Winter Olympics were popping up. This is the summer, this is 2002, right? So the Winter Olympics are happening in Salt Lake City, and they invite me up to be an MC at the big Coke exhibit at the Winter Olympics in 2002. So I actually got an opportunity to go to the Winter Olympics and essentially talk in a microphone for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours on end. We'd go work all day, talk for 12 hours, go home, rest, get up, do it again. And by the time the 3 weeks is done, everyone's voice is just destroyed. And it was crazy. Then after that, literally, I went from this beacon of athletic prowess of the Winter Olympics to like there was a week buffer or something in between where I essentially went from Salt Lake City to so silly, to boobs all over the place because I went to spring break down in South Padre Island, Texas, which, look, you're down there. I think I'm probably 20, so I'm probably 21 at the time, 22 at the time, and I'm down there as an MC down in at the Coca-Cola Beach down in South Padre Island, which it's just a giant stage with 5,000 college kids in front of you, and all they want to do is get on stage. Now, I spent some time on stage talking on a microphone a little bit, but the one story I remember from that is I remember working security, and keep in mind, I am skin and bones at this point. I don't have any of this muscle. I'm not a grown man at this time, so I'm just 21 years old, skin and bones, maybe a little, workout and stuff, but I remember these girls these college age girls would be like, I want to get on stage, woo, and they like flash their tops. And I got to be honest, if you want to feel like a badass, you just go like, no, you can't get on stage. That means nothing to me. Like if you want to talk about feeling like a hard ass, it's just saying no. No, your boobs mean nothing to me. It was so crazy and so silly. So make sure you raise your children better, all right? Anyway, so that happens. Spring break happens. There's an entire backstory there where I told people I was from Canada, but whatever. I'll tell that some other time. And then after that, this is 2002. I see Slam Ball on TV, the first season of Slam Ball. And I was like, holy moly, I got to see that. So I got to do that. So I start training for Slam Ball, and I learn about the internet and how the internet ties into there's fan sites and all sorts of stuff. And that was actually my first real foray into how the internet works and how it could be really, really great for the growth of just letting people know that you want to be a part of something. Because I was part of this fan site, allsports.com/slamball. Give it up. That was the official the fan site for Slam Ball. And I was like, I want to play this sport. So I started training. I went to a local gymnastics place, started training like literally 3 times a week on these trampolines. They were fortunate enough to just let me do it. I got really, really good. Eventually, on the message board, the guy who ran Slam Ball was like, look, I'm gonna invite one person out from here to come actually try out. He chose me. I went out to Slam Ball, was the last pick in the entire draft. It was all scripted, all staged. I didn't know it was scripted and staged. At least the draft was. They had every draft pick. And man, I could talk about Slam Ball for days and just the little stories attached to that. And maybe I'll do that. If you'd like to see a video about Slam Ball and the insanity that was Slam Ball, let me know, because it was crazy. There's so many little stories there. But yeah, but let me know down in the comments. So I did Slam Ball. Went out to Slam Ball. It was awesome. It was super fun. I got paid to be a professional athlete. Or I got paid to be an athlete, which technically makes me a professional athlete. I was paid $10,000 for a summer of work, which was awesome money at the time. But living in California, it was not awesome at the time. So $10,000 sounds like a lot of money. In the grand scheme of professional athletes, it is not. It is not. So I did Slam Ball, came on back, hoped Slam Ball would return. It never did, because there was some stuff that went on behind the scenes, and business and TV networks and ownership and rights and whatever. So I start moving on with my life, and I intern at The Ticket. The Ticket is a famous station here in Dallas-Fort Worth. It is thought of as like one of the original sports talk stations. It's kind of like Guy Talk more than anything. You really get to know the personalities on the station. You get to know them as people, not just their opinions about sports and stuff. And The Ticket was a huge inspiration for Screw Attack and how it got started, and getting to know the personality behind Screw Attack and not just our thoughts on gaming and such. And I learned a lot while interning at The Ticket. But I worked for a show called, the guy's name was Richard Hunter, and his show was called Big Dick's Wild Ass Circus. And now it's kind of thought of when you talk to somebody at The Ticket, it's a deep cut, right? When you talk to somebody at The Ticket or a fan of The Ticket and you mention Big Dick's Wild Ass Circus, like, you really got to know you were a super fan to listen to the show. It was a late night show. I'd went in, and the only reason why I was hired, I was known as Craig from Slam Ball. And that's like the only reason why I got on, because I played Slam Ball. So I essentially did all the grunt work. I'd call people to book them for guests. I kind of served as a producer for the show, kind of, sort of. And I got like 2 minutes of airtime the entire time I interned there. But it was fun. It was fun to go on. And, I learned a lot from being a part of that process, and, formatting of shows and things like that. And that was a really cool, I don't know, it may have been 6 months or so. But every night I would drive down to Dallas. I would be a part of the show. And it was really fun. I mean, be a part of the show was loose, very loose, because I wasn't actually on the show. And I'd very rarely get thanks. But I would occasionally get referenced. And that was the most important thing. I'd feel good about that. But Richard actually introduced me to a guy at this big new resort that was opening up in Dallas called the Gaylord Texan. And he introduced me to the guy who's running the sports bar there. So I got introduced there, and I got hired at this giant sports bar, because I can't intern for free at The Ticket forever, right? So I got hired to work at the sports bar to essentially help. I was essentially a human remote controller. I would program what was going on throughout the entire venue, And I did that for like 3 years, which was crazy. And I met my wife there, and that was actually where I started the idea of Screw Attack. And it was pretty fun. I don't remember the exact start date of that. I mean, it probably 2004, 2005 when I started there. But in between there, I actually so I do that during the week and on the weekends. But occasionally I also, this is so crazy that I like looking back, I'm like, how the hell did I do all this shit? I actually worked, I auditioned and I got hired to work for the NBA's D League, which had 3 franchises all around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. There was one in Fort Worth, there was one in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and there was one in Austin, Texas. And I actually originally wanted to get hired to work at all 3 of those locations and just drive from game to game, and do different things at the games. Because I wanted to, that was the goal, I wanted to be a PA announcer in the NBA. If you recall, actually at Screw Attack, there was a PA position available for the Dallas Mavericks, and we bothered Mark Cuban about that, and it became a thing really quick. It was pretty fun. But so I did that, and I would actually drive from Fort Worth down to Austin, back to Fort Worth, and I would actually lose money to go down to Austin. I was paid $25 a game. In Fort Worth, I was the PA announcer. In Austin, I was like the on-court MC, and I'd play games with kids and do like the on-court entertainment and things like that. So I'd go out on there, and it was really, really fun. So I was probably 23, 24 at the time when I'm doing this stuff. And it was a really great experience. But I'll tell you, that was one of those times where I was just grinding and grinding and grinding. And there are times in your life where you feel like you're getting nothing out of it. But when you look back on it, you realize that you've learned a heck of a lot. Whether it's about your work ethic, whether it's about just doing things to make sure they get done the right way. Sometimes it's not about the money, going between Fort Worth and Dallas. I mean, literally losing money driving down there and driving back just to be on court for a few minutes and perform in front of 500 or 600 people at a developmental game for the NBA. The whole idea was, let's just do it to see what happens. So I worked for Austin, I worked for Fort Worth, and I decided Tulsa was going to be stretching it a little too much because I just wouldn't have the time. And then I'd go back to work at the Gaylord at this place called Texan Station and their big old sports bar and stuff. And that is actually where Screw Attack started. I was still working with, Tom and I were still friends, and we got Screw Attack started and did that. You guys probably know about that. Did that for several years. We ended up selling it after 7 or 8 years, I think 2014, so 8 years. Sold that, worked for Rooster Teeth for 3 years, which the Rooster Teeth 3 years, I will absolutely do a video about that, my time with Rooster Teeth. And there'll be a lot of stories that are not just about Screw Attack, but just about my career as a whole. So lots of those coming. And then left and did Game Attack for 3 years. I thought I was going to do it for a couple years. I told myself I was going to do it for 2. Ended up doing it for 3. And now here we are. I got other projects going on, which are really exciting. Some in the gaming space, some not in the gaming space. And I still have this little YouTube channel, which I really like to do. So I really appreciate you guys popping in. I got a lot more projects, man, going on. And I can't wait to share them with you guys. Obviously, we talked about Collaborator Club. Collaborator Club is a really big thing for me, and hopefully it is for you too. I'm excited for that. So lots of things going on, even outside of Collaborator. But I appreciate you guys listening to this. I know this is a long video to hear about essentially my career and the path that it took to get to literally right here. But I think ultimately, when it comes down to it, everything that I've done in my career has led to something else, right? I think about working at GameWorks. GameWorks led me to this Coke thing. Coke led me to the Olympics thing. The Coke thing. The slam ball is really the only outlier in there. It is. Nothing else led to that, but the interning at Disney. Oh, and interning at Disney led to the ticket, along with slam ball, and then the ticket led to the working at the Gaylord. So all I'm saying is, sometimes you may not have a true path in where you're going to go, but you'll get there wherever it may be. It's good to have an idea and a career path. It is, but sometimes just taking the step will lead you in really great places. So I hope that you take those stories and realize that you can do literally whatever you want in this world. I mean, truly, there's nothing stopping you. So if you have a goal, go get it. I believe you can do it. There are so many options out there for you to do, whether you're working at McDonald's, whether you're doing something at Amazon, whether you have your own business, or whether you're a multi-millionaire. There are many things for you to do it and go out and accomplish right now, and you can do them. You just got to have faith in yourself, and you got to have belief in yourself. Faith and belief, two separate things, all right? But with that said, I know you can do it. So go out there and go get it. Guys, thanks for watching this video. I appreciate it. Give it a thumbs up, and make sure you share it. I'd really appreciate it if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll see you guys next time for another real story with Stuttering Craig. It's actually story time. I don't even know the name of my damn show.